great. So we are hopefully all here looking forward to create this cute bunny. I've got the cake ready, prepared, and I'm going to start in a sec to carve, cover, decorate. But first of all, I want to welcome everyone. In case you are watching me now or you've decided to kind of watch later, it doesn't matter. As long as you are healthy and safe, it really doesn't matter when you decide to watch this video. It's going to be available to watch at any point. Now, if you want to see how I've made the sponge and how I've made the cream and I've set it the cake, then you will need to request and join the Academy of Cake Decorating group. Now that is a group, not the page. I know they've got the same name, but I'm talking about the group. Reason being that on that group I've been able to upload the PDFs containing the recipes, templates and everything else, while in the page you can't practically upload all those details. So in case that you are interested, just head to Academy of Cake Decorating group and just request to join, and I will be more than happy to get you in. I'm going to start in a sec. So let's see what we've got to do. We've got this little cute bunny to create. So first of all, we will start by carving. So I've already built a block of cake, and I did mention on that Academy of Cake Decorating group, you will notice the video on how I've done it. I've actually shared earlier today on my page and on the Academy's page. So in case that you browse through the videos, you will be able to find the video. But in regards with the PDF, the recipes, they are only available on that group. So as you can see, this looks pretty much like a shoe, but it's going to turn up looking like a little bunny. So all I need to do is to try and reach with this cake the stage I've got here on the cake which I've carved earlier, but that's going to be used for a different cake. So but it will practically start with the same sort of shape. I'm going to use a normal knife, a kitchen knife, and I will keep the crumbs on the side in case that at one point I will need any cake to fill some gaps. I will pick some of the crumbs, maybe just soften the crumbs with some cream and turn everything into a cake clay. That's how it's called, cake clay. Okay, I've set few cameras on the side to try and give you the best viewing possible, so I'll keep swapping between the cameras, and I do hope you will be able to see me in action. I'm going to start rounding the head. Now I've mentioned when I've built the cake, I've mentioned that this is going to turn up into quite a fat bunny because the cake is quite tall. So that just gives me the chance of carving a little bit more. The cake was sitting in the fridge for a few good hours, so it's nice and firm, so I can slice the excess carved through quite easily. Okay. So I'll just keep alternating in between the camera so that you can see how it looks from the top and from the side. Okay, good. So keep cutting small pieces. Now if you look at the photo of the bunny, yeah, you notice that the head, it's got this part which is quite wide, and then it's got the top which is a bit smaller in size and quite round. Now what I can do in this is I can keep the base quite wide and then start shaving off the excess from the top, or I can increase the size by adding some of those crumbs mixed with buttercream and just make the head a bit taller. whatever. Well, I will see. I will decide later. Now that I've done a little bit the carving on the back, I'm going to turn the cake and try and do some carving on the body of the bunny. I will remove a chunk of cake from here. That's where the neck is positioned. Now usually the body of the bunny is much bigger than the head. It doesn't have a huge head. I will try to obviously increase the size of the head just to make that to look cute, but a real bunny doesn't have a very, I mean, some, you know, some breeds might have a big head, but generally the bunny's got a bigger body than a head. So I'm going to keep trimming. Now ideally it would be to trim little by little so that you don't cut too much in one go. And obviously this is the most untidiest cake for carving. I've left it quite untidy because I want you to see that it's not a big deal to carve a cake, even if it doesn't look perfect. Okay, and I want to finish with the carving before the cake starts getting quite soft. As it gets soft, it's more difficult to cut through. Again, to round the back of the bunny, I can put some crumbs and stick them on with some buttercream. So I'm not going to stress too much on that section. Okay, just shaving off. Always try and keep a balance in between both sides to make sure that right, left, they are like in a mirror image. Okay, now I will just transfer to the top camera, as I want to trim quite a lot from here. Is kind of a V shape, if you notice. Yeah, and I will do the same thing on the other side. Cutting through, yeah, and then I will start rounding. That looks pretty much like a ladybird. That's actually the project which I'm thinking to fulfill with the other cake. Okay, and I'm going to carry on rounding and tidying up. Okay, before I said I don't want the cake to start turning very soft. That will put me into trouble. For example, if you cut too much, or if you are kind of short in cake and you can't really get too much, you can also fill some areas with fondant. That is absolutely fine. The only downside is obviously the fondant is just a big block of sugar, while the cake is got a better taste. So, but in case of emergency, that you can definitely do that. So my bunny is going to be a really fat bunny, as I don't really want to remove all the cake from the top. So I will just leave the body slightly fatter. I think this little bunny had quite a lot of cake, same like I did over the last few months, as I put a lot of weight on. So I should start a diet. Staying indoors now doesn't help too much, but I think we are all in the same boat. So I would suggest you to try and spend your time decorating more than baking, so that you don't need to eat what you produce. Okay, so just keep removing some just to give that kind of a roundness of the body. Just hoping that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, good. So looking from the top, I do need to put a bit of chunks of cake on the back to make it quite round, and also I need to put a bit more right on the front to create the muzzle. but in rest it looks okay. Just a little bit maybe on the top here. I've got this piece of cake which looks quite nice, and I'm going to get my bucket with buttercream, and pretty sure I've got somewhere. Yeah, just to kind of lift this head to the level of the body. Just a thin layer. I don't need very much in here. Okay, and then I will just tidy up. Okay, just moving the camera so that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so you can always just fill with some crumbs, or I say if you don't have those crumbs handy, you can always use some fondant. Okay, but I've got the white base, and I've got that kind of a round, smaller shape right on the top. And I'm just going to pop a few little crumbs on the side just to complete the shape. Okay. That's great. Everything else is fine. Just turning now and see how I can sort out the back and give a bit of roundness to the back. You can obviously leave it as it is in case that you base your cake on the same size sponge like I did. I've mentioned, I mean, it's mentioned on the recipe. I've actually did a 9 by 12 sorry, 9 by 14, I think it was 9 by 12, but anyway, the design was based on a 9 by 12 rectangular piece of cake. So, and it was just like 2 inches deep, so it was not a large piece of cake, and initially it had about 150 grams. So I'm going to measure the total weight at the end, now that I've put the buttercream as well, and I will see. But theoretically, say for example, if the sponge had about 1.1 kilos, I've got some crumbs here. Those are probably the equivalent of about 200 grams. So I've dropped the amount of cake to about 900 grams, but I've definitely used like half of this bucket, so about 400 grams of buttercream. So that went up to about 1 kilo and 300 grams for the whole cake. So that would be just enough for about 15 people. Okay, which I think is just reasonable considering that now the gatherings are not recommended. Just for a family meal would be just perfect. That was actually the reason why I've decided to make it smaller, just to give you an idea about how to deal with a smaller size. So if you join the group, you will also find some tips about how to scale up a picture in case that you've got a different picture of a little bunny which you want to mimic, or a different pet. It doesn't need to be a bunny, it can be anything else. You can always just take measurements and adapt, scale up, and get the template for a cake. I'm just spreading the buttercream. Just trying to. I don't usually sit when I decorate, especially not when I carve, so it's a bit tricky, but I just wanted to get the full side. I do hope you can also hear me well. It's really hard as I can't really see. I will probably take a minute break and have a quick look if you've got any comments, any questions. But if you've got any questions, don't forget to pop them on either on the group or on my page. I'll be happy to answer all of your questions. Now I'm going to run this demo and also how to build the cake and how to bake and everything in Romanian for all my Romanian friends. As you probably all know, I'm Romanian, so it makes sense to do it in Romanian. I don't actually teach too often in Romanian, so sometimes it's very hard to find my words, but I will be so happy to share with them all I know. So that is practically a different page, sorry, a different group which I've created, and it's called Ribana Cristescu România. And that will be a group where I'm going to share all my knowledge which I've gained over the last 30 years being in this trade, and it will be in Romanian, of course. But in the same time, I will carry on uploading stuff on my page and on the Academies group, and those will be in English. So just trying to make everybody happy and busy during those challenging times. So those crumbs will be placed on one side. I'm not going to use them. I think I'm just fine with what I've got here, but I will definitely need to do a bit of tidy up, and then just place this little cake in the fridge for a few minutes. But before to do that, what I'm going to do, just get a piece of cling film, and I will just wrap the body, and that will just help me to maneuver this cake and get rid of all the sticky greasy buttercream. Okay, so I can touch the cake, and I can also smooth the buttercream. Okay, and then just transfer in here, and then just clean up the board and the surface. I'm kind of obsessed with this granite. It always gets so messy whenever I work with grease, and obviously that happens continuously, and it's just so annoying. Okay, sorry for that. Just going to quickly wipe and then start working on the decorating side. Okay. Now, I've mentioned about putting this cake in the fridge. I might actually decide to start working on it immediately because it's still cold, and I think it will be fine. So, because once I've got this covered with fondant, I can attach the decorations. Now, some of the decorations have been already made, and I will just show you how I've made them, just to save the time and make sure that we kind of fit into this 1 hour schedule. It's not that I cannot run for longer. I can be running live for 10 hours and I will still have something to say. 10 hours per day, I mean, not just in one day. But it's just, I'm pretty sure you are busy and you've got other bits to do, so I don't want to keep you too long watching me doing a little cake. So let's have a quick look on the board and see what we've got here, and just to look at the image. So I'm going to keep the cake in pink, as I've got two beautiful granddaughters, and I'm sure they will be super excited to have to see this, to see it online, because we can't really interact, unfortunately, being those given those circumstances. So I will make it pink. So I'll just roll the fondant and cover the body. Then I've got the pose ready made, and I will show you how I've made them, and I will tell you how much fondant I've used for making the pose. I've also made the muzzle, which I'm going to replicate again, just to show you how I did it. I've made the eyes, and I will show you how I did it, the carrots, and then we'll put everything on the board and then finish the board and hopefully have everything done in like an hour. But let's start with the covering process. I'm pretty sure you know that my favorite fondant is by Bora, but it doesn't need to be by Bora. Even some homemade fondant will do, whatever you've got available. I still got some by Bora in stock, so this is the one I'm going to use. But in case that you are kind of struggled, just do some homemade fondant and that would be fine. You can also, if you prefer, for example, you can just color some buttercream and then just put 2-3 layers of buttercream, but do set the cake in the freezer so that it gets firm, so when you cover it practically will kind of make the buttercream to stick immediately, as being cold will help the buttercream to stick automatically. Now on that recipe, I've actually mentioned about having some coconut, desiccated coconut. I'm going to use this to finish the tail. But if you are planning to cover your cake with buttercream, you cover with buttercream, color this coconut with some pink or blue or whatever color you want to use for your little bunny. And then once you've covered your whole cake with buttercream, just sprinkle the colored coconut, and that will just give you the texture of the fur, and it will look really cute, and you don't need to use fondant. So that's just a tip in case that you don't have fondant, or you don't like the fondant. If you are not a huge fan of fondant, I'm not a huge fan of fondant. I usually use the fondant just for decorating, but just saying there is an option of using either the buttercream or the buttercream and the coconut, just to give that texture of the fur. Why not? Let me just try and change those bits around just to make enough room for rolling the fondant. Now I'm just looking to see where is my rolling pin. I think I've lost it somewhere, but anyway, I will have a quick look and see where it ended up being placed. I'm going to slice a piece of this by Bora fondant, and just to make my life easier, I think I'm going to pop this in the microwave just to make sure that I don't need to knead too much. Don't know. Oh yeah. Oops. See, I've tried to put everything in one place, but good. So I've got my rolling mat. Oh, this is optional. You've noticed how I've kept my rolling mat. I did not put it around my rolling pin this way. Yeah, I put it the other way. So automatically when you put this on the surface, it stays flat. Otherwise it starts curling and it's really, really annoying. Okay, I'm just going to give it a quick wipe. Okay, and then pop my fondant in the microwave. Was looking for a scale. Yeah, anyway, that looks pretty much like about 300 grams. I don't have a scale handy. So going to place this in the microwave for literally like 4 or 5 seconds, just to get it soft. I also have got the Trex, you know, the vegetable fat. Oops, sorry, completely forgot about it. The vegetable fat, which I normally recommend for conditioning any sort of paste. So you see it's more maneuverable because it was softened on the microwave. I'm going just to get a bit of the Trex and start kneading, just to get it nice and pliable and with no air bubbles. All those air bubbles will automatically show up when a piece of paste will be kept on the side. It happens with the gum paste, with the fondant, with pretty much every kind of paste, less with chocolate paste. So you see a nice smooth consistency. Okay, and I did say I've got about maybe even less, 250 grams, maybe even less, I don't know. Anyway, it should be okay and enough for what I've got to do. So the smooth side goes down on the mat. I'm going to start squashing to try and enlarge this piece. It's just easier to roll if it's quite wide spread on the mat. And with my rolling pin, I will start rolling away from me. Yeah, just keeping the mat secure. Just show you how. Yeah, so I'll just keep the mat secure with my hip and then just roll away from me. And then I will turn the mat and do from the center to the edge, again away from me. And that will just keep the mat in place, as I had quite a few students complaining that the mat doesn't want to stay in place when they roll. So just stretching. Again, at one point you might think that this fondant doesn't want to move. All you need to do is just to release a little, allow the air to get underneath, and then when you roll, it will stretch quicker. Just because it gets stuck to the surface, it stretches a bit more difficult. Now, I'm not necessarily looking for a round sheet of paste, because the shape of my bunny, this is also great fondant. It doesn't dry very quick, so it gives you the time to think about and then take measurements and so on. So with the tape measuring, I will be measuring from here over the across the body, and I've got about 15 inches, and then on the widest point across I've got about 12 inches. So if I will do like a rectangle, and that will be about 12 by 15, I should be on the safe side. Okay, so I've got 12 in here, so I should stretch to get the 15. As I said, it doesn't need to be round, so I can just slide my rolling pin. Just change the camera so that you can see. I can slide the rolling pin and just stretch the fondant. Okay, from time to time, if needed, you can lift your fondant. It got stuck to the surface, and then just help the air to get underneath and stretch. In here, for example, this area can be used for the head, so I don't need to get stressed about rolling it up to 12 inches. So I can just do it this way to make sure it's all stretched at the same thickness. It's just so much easier to slide the rolling pin instead of rolling. Okay, so it just seems that I've got the right size in here, but just to double check, put the ruler and just measure. I've got 15 length and 12 inches width on here. On here where I've got the head to cover is a bit less, but that's going to be fine. Now I'm going to bring the cake in front of me, and whenever you want to smooth the buttercream, you can keep the cling film, and with the heat of your hand you can smooth. But at this point I think I'm just fine. Now the buttercream is soft, but that will do. I mean, it's not a competition cake, it's just a cake for fun, and a cake which will be eaten fairly soon. So you don't need to get stressed too much in reaching the perfection. Anyway, there is no such a thing, and you just need to have fun. That's all you need. Okay, now just trying to see if I can show you from this angle. Yeah, what I will do, I will just lift the fondant. You don't necessarily need to lift the fondant, you can just flip the mat over and stretch it. But this is so versatile. It works beautifully, so you can just lift that piece up. If, for example, if I will have this cake covered with ganache, I would probably put the sticky side, the one which was in contact with the mat, over the ganache. I know that quite a few of the decorators, they intend to brush with water. I wouldn't do such a thing, because you get drips of water everywhere and it turns out into a disaster. I would use some Trex and or butter, and just grease the surface of the fondant and apply it on the ganache. But obviously I've got buttercream, so all this doesn't apply. So I don't need this rolling pin anymore, so this will go on one side. And just go back to my little cake and start smoothing. Now, ideally, if you keep this cake in the fridge before covering, that just gives you the chance of, you know, spending a bit more time in finishing as the cake is cold. Now, in my case, the cake is not so cold, so I can only do what I can do. and I wouldn't stress too much on smoothing. As long as it looks decent, it's fine. Good. So going to put the fondant right down on the base and then just press with my hands, and then I will start cutting the excess. Now I will see which one will work better, if it's going to be my craft cake knife. If you look in here, don't know why the light is just playing weird in here. I would leave a little bit of a gap, so I wouldn't cut straight next to the cake. I will leave at least like half of an inch, and I will just remove the excess, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because that extra fondant can be tucked underneath and it will just look much better. Good. Now, before smoothing, I'm going to actually use a piece of fondant for smoothing, and I will wrap that piece of fondant into some cling film. Saying that, don't panic if you don't have cling film handy, because it does work with a piece of fondant which is not even covered in cling film. I think it's, you know, we use the cling film just for convenience, but not because it's absolutely necessary. And we should start thinking about how we can save, how we can reuse, how can we do things without spending too much time and money. That will be on our things to do list for a very long time. Okay, so we've got the board now. And to be honest, because it's such a small cake, what I can do, I can just lift the cake up without being afraid that it's going to collapse. But when you've got a heavy cake, you can't really do such a thing. So you should just put some buttercream on the board and then secure the cake. Now, ideally, it would be to keep the cake in the fridge a little while so that it sets on the board so it doesn't keep moving on the side. If you want to cover the board with fondant, I would suggest to cover the board with fondant. Either put the board in the oven at 40 degrees for like half an hour or so to get dry, or you might want to cover the board a day or two before so it's all firm and safe to touch. Obviously, I haven't done that because I'm planning to cover the board in a different way. So I'll just put the cake on the top. Kind of squash a little bit the head, but that's absolutely fine. Just give a little stroke and it will be okay. So my cake, it will slide a little, unfortunately. Ideally, as I said, will be to have it firm on the board. Yeah, I will just need to cope with what I've got. So I'm going to start polishing. And just to smooth this out. Okay, and just turn around and make sure it's all fine. Also looking from the top, if you notice, I've left a bit more cake in here than on the other side, but because it's soft, I can just push and then reshape a little. Then looking from the front, it also looks good. Don't worry about this part because that's going to be covered anyway, so it's pointless to get worried about things which will not be important or relevant in future. I think we've got many things to worry about, so definitely not how it looks underneath the muzzle. Okay, so that's all good. Going back to the base, I'm going to take the pieces which I've already created next to me and then just show you what I did and how I did. I practically need some white fondant now to make the pose, because I don't really want to waste too much of the Bybora fondant. I've used actually some PME fondant. It's a slightly cheaper fondant, but it's also quite soft and easy to maneuver. So I've pinched about 50 grams of fondant per pose. So in total, I've actually used about 200 grams. So that tells you a lot. So whenever you work out the cost, let's see, where is my little scale? Just take in consideration. So I've used about 250 grams to roll to cover the cake, and I've had some excess. That's probably the equivalent of a 50 grams. So overall, I've used 200 grams of Bybora to cover the bunny, and I've used 200 grams of the PME to make the pose. How silly is that? It's not that, you know, it's a good fondant for such a thing, but I'm saying about the quantity you need to use for, you know, something which you don't even think is relevant. It is. So practically, when you will look at the instructions, I said about 1.5 to 2 kilograms of fondant. I've actually referred to this amount of fondant which you are going to use to make the pose, to make the ears, maybe to make the carrots, because I also took in consideration you might not have the already colored fondant, and you might want to use the white fondant to color in various colors. Okay, so just to kind of clarify that. So let's go back to the pose. I'm just going to measure and get like 50 grams. I've got about 62, so I've actually noticed that there's a bit too much. Okay, so 50 grams. So just going to create this into more like I don't know how to call it, like a stone shape, pebbled shape, a large one. And I'm going to use my knife and put like 3 indentations. Not that you need to put 3. I've got no idea how many you need to put, just because I've put 3 on the other ones. Okay, and then I'm going to go next to my cake and get my picture. Okay, and you can notice here, so I've got all those 4 poses which I'm going to use. 2 of them are stuck quite next to the head. Now if you want, for example, to trim some, or to use a round cutter or cut round, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to push this in. Okay, put the second one in here, same like it's shown in the photo, and then the other 2 on the side. Okay, that looks quite good. Okay, let's go back to this image and see how they are positioned. But when I've referred to cutting with a round cutter, I was actually talking about how to stick it closer to the body. So if you want that, feel free to do it. Okay, we'll just do the same thing in here and stuck on the side. Good. Now that I've finished with the pose, let's have a quick look at the ears. Now, one of the ears is already done. Okay, so if I will just pop this through, yeah, that will just give you an idea about how it should look like. Let's turn it to the public, this direction. Okay, so one of the ears was already set. All I need to do is to do the second one. Now I did this one earlier today just to allow this some drying time. That was like maybe like 2 hours ago. The other one, it will be straight, and you might think, but the straight one should need more drying time. Now on the straight one, you can actually put the wooden skewer right through the top, but in here I've left the wooden skewer just on the bottom part of the ear and left the other one to dry over a container. Okay, so I will just go back to the cake and then change the image. I've used some white Bybora to create the ears along with some pink. purely because I wanted the fondant to set quicker. And Vibora is a firm fondant, so it behaves better when it comes to setting, pretty much like a modeling paste. Now I think, I can't remember exactly, but I think I've used about 60 grams. How silly is that? I've completely forgot how much I've used. So, oh, that it came off. So 58, yeah, it was about 50 grams of pink. Did you notice? Yeah, so the wooden skewer actually came off. 50 grams of white and about 8 grams of pink. Okay, so 46, 56. Oops. Good. It's like 51, but that will do. Good. Now, because it's Vibora, obviously it's quite firm, so unless I pop this in the microwave, which I will do for like a second or so, it will get soft. Now I don't need this anymore, it can go on one side. And I will also need a bit of pink, just a little bit, because that's just a small amount. Let's go back in here. So what I need to do is, excuse me, just to roll into an elongated shape. Okay, so just going to put this on the surface, keep rolling, making sure they don't get any kind of splits or anything. I will also remove this to make sure that I get the same sort of length. I did not measure the length of the ear, so I'm going to do it now. So overall it's like 6 inches long, and the width is about 1.5 on the widest point. So just keep rolling, pressing and squashing a little bit harder on one side, but not too much, because I still want to keep that round. So it's a very elongated kind of a cone, which is almost 6 inches long. If I would start squashing a little, that will turn up the size I want. And also I'm going to pinch a small piece of paste, the equivalent of about 8 grams, so just a small one, and roll this in the same way, with one end quite pointy and the other one a bit wider. Okay, that will just go on top of the ear. Stretch it in case it doesn't reach the base, and then just press gently with your finger. Then press with your palm, run your palm. They will stick together. There is no need for glue. Then I'll put on the rest on the list of the materials needed the Dresden tool. That's a tool which is got very sharp end and normally is used for markings, and the other part is quite round and it's used for, I usually use it for frilling. But this is the most versatile tool ever. I think if you've got this tool in your kit, you can practically do any kind of modeling and decorating. I'm going to put the sharp end through the center, applying a bit of a pressure, and then with the other end, which is not super sharp, I would smooth the edges. Okay, then you can also smooth with your hand, whatever. And that practically looks to be sister with the other one. Okay, so then we'll just go back on its place, and I've got to put a wooden skewer through this bit. Now let's have a quick look and see where my wooden skewer is. So it's not a very long wooden skewers, but I don't really need the skewer to go up to the top. If it goes up to here, it will be fine. And I'm going to use the sharp end to insert onto my fondant. I'll just put this in and start twisting and pushing, trying to not to punch the paste and get the wooden skewer out through the fondant. Yeah, so if you look on both sides, I've just tried to control this. Now, I'm not going to place this on top of the head yet, because it's a bit too soft, especially that I've used the microwave to soften the fondant. So I'll just leave this on the side to set while I'm doing the rest of the decorations. You can obviously just create a kind of a funny shape if you want to. Okay, now the next thing to do, let's make a carrot. Now to make the carrot, I've actually used some soft fondant, which was it was a Square's Kitchen fondant, pale orange. And the reason why I've used this pale orange is just to give you an idea how you can achieve that kind of orange. So I'm going to do exactly the same shape I did for the ear when I started to make the ear. Bowl shape first, and then I will start elongating, rolling with a bit more pressure at the bottom of my palms. Yeah, so it keeps going on this direction. Yeah, so an elongated cone. And then you don't need this very pointy, and you don't need this elongated as well. So I've got a cone tool. That's again a very popular tool, and it's quite used in cake decorating, in flower making as well. And you just insert and drill the end, the wide end. That's where I'm going to put the greenery. Okay, now it doesn't really need to be the perfect carrot shape. It can be any kind of shape. Now to put some very fine lines, you can use any sharp blade and add texture. And it's pointless to do it around the carrot, because then anyway it's not going to be seen, so just the visible side. And then also in a few areas you should put like deeper indentations. Yeah. Then if you've got a food marker, it's quick and easy. You literally just put some stains where you've marked deeply, and then just randomly here and there to create that kind of look of carrot. If you don't have a food marker, you might have a brush, a fine brush, and maybe some black dust. If you've got none of them, don't know, maybe you've got some black fondant. You can soften that fondant with some water till it gets really, really, really soft, and then use that with a cotton bud and brush. I mean, there are, if not, worst case scenario, if you've got any cocoa powder, that will also do. It will just darken some the area, and you will turn up looking like a carrot. Let's do the greenery. I'm going to use some Bybora green, just a small amount, just to show you like 2-3 leaves, very basic leaves. Again, this fondant, because it's a firm fondant, it requires a bit of maneuvering before working, so to make sure it gets soft. Oops. Okay, again a very elongated piece of fondant, which I'm going to flatten, and then using my veining tool, you see that veining tool, yeah, it's quite sharp. If you don't have that veining tool, you can use a knife. I'm going to do another leaf and I will use a knife. Okay, so practically all you need to do is just to shape through the center, and then you press with this tool on the side and you split the fondant. Okay, and you do the same thing on the other side. You might think, oh, what's the point of spending the time? First of all, you will enjoy your time, and you've got plenty of time now. I know you have. Yeah. And secondly, people always get super excited when they notice little details, thinking, oh my god, that looks like a leaf. So yeah, just take your time, and that's just going to be so enjoyable. And if you've got your kids around you and happy to help you, I think that will be quite fun, and that will give them something to do. Okay, so that's how it should look like. I will just quickly do one using a knife. I'm going to use just a normal knife, but I'm not going to use the very sharp side of the blade. I will use the thick one, as I really don't want to cut through the paste. So I'm not going to use the sharp one, the back of the blade. Okay, so it does pretty much the same thing. And then just chop with the sharp part or with the other part, and then just split the grass. and then attach those leaves and stick them on that little hole which you've made at the end of the carrot. I'm going to use some glue, so I've got a brush, just rub the glue inside. Now you can make your own glue if you've got the CMC or the gum Tragacan or the Gum Arabic, whatever. I mean, there are so many gums available now. Just a little bit of a gum with water, it will make you a nice glue. Or you can use egg white or literally water. As your paste has sugar already, it's pointless to keep stressing and getting some edible glue, as once you touch the sugar with water it becomes sticky. Okay, and also I've got here a little brush, and I should have some orange. I'm using the PME orange, sunset orange, but any kind of orange will do. Just a bright orange. That practically looks like a carrot orange, to be honest. Not quite a sunset, it's more like a carrot orange. You see how bright that is? Okay, and also another thing which you can use if you've got such a thing is some glaze. So I'm going to use some edible glaze. Again, it's a PME glaze, but it can be any brand as long as it's edible. Don't use varnish, like, you know, non-edible varnish. That's just not acceptable. Okay, and just seal the dust. Okay, and that's the little carrot. And then just give it a bit of a I don't know, just a kind of a natural look, so that it doesn't look so stiff. Okay, so going to put this on the side. Let's carry on. So let's make the eyes. I'll just quickly show you how to make one eye, and then you can obviously do the same thing for the second. So I've got a piece of white, a piece of blue, and a piece of black. I don't have the black here. Let's see where the bucket is. I hope you don't mind if I run over that hour, or if you are busy, if you've got something to do. I don't think you've got somewhere to go, but if you've got something to do, you can always watch if we go slightly over the time. Okay, so I'm going to roll all those pieces of paste, and I've got a small rolling pin handy. I'm using the Vibora fondant, by the way, so it's quite firm. So I've got white, I've got blue, and I've got black. Good. Now to cut, I'm going to use a piece of that's just a normal mat, like kitchen mat. You can buy it from any supermarket. A pack of 3 will cost you about £3. Literally does just a half of one of the mats. They normally come 3 in a pack. So I've got some oval cutters. They're all metallic cutters, but also you can use the PME oval cutters. In case that you don't have those cutters, all you need to do is to grab, let me just get a softer fondant so it works quicker. You get a piece of fondant, you start rolling that piece of fondant into a ball shape, and then you into a ball shape. Okay, and then you elongate a little, more like a bean shape, and then you squash, and this is your oval. Yeah, so it's going to take a bit more time to do it, but you can do it even if you don't have those cutters. But I'm pretty sure if you look somewhere in the kitchen, you will find some shapes which can be used for cutting those ovals. So you only need to cut the base with the largest, and then you cut another layer with a smaller, or make a smaller oval shape, and you place that on the top. Now to stick, you can use Trex, which I'm going to do, or you can use glue. I'm going to use Trex, put another touch of Trex, and I'm using now a large nozzle to cut a circle. Again, you can't get any round cutter. You can practically do that by hand. It will take some time to make it nice, but it will do. Also, I do have some punchers for cake, for paper craft. Okay, and whenever I punch sugar sheets, I intend to store all those little pieces and use them for either decorating the eyes or putting sparkles when needed. So now I'm just looking to see where my glue brush has gone. Okay, I'm going to put a little touch here and secure one of those white sparkles, and then just do the same in here and add one of the round ones. Okay, so that's going to be one of the eyes, and obviously you will need just to do the second in the same way. So very, very easy to do. Okay, I'm going to pop those on the side. As I've got mine already done, let me show you how I will stick the eyes. So I've got the eyes. I'm going to rub the back of the eye with some Trex, and then just place the eye in here, and do the other one in the same way, just with a little bit of Trex. You can obviously attach with glue, yeah, but the Trex will just give you the flexibility of positioning the eyes wherever you want. Okay, so they don't look complete yet because we still got some bits to do. I can pop the ear as is already set, yeah, and that will just make the bunny to start taking shape. Okay, good. Let's go back to here. So I need to carry on and do the muzzle. That's very easy to do. Literally just grab a piece of fondant. Okay, it doesn't matter what brand. Quantity wise, I think it's just plain error. Depends on how big you want that muzzle to be. Like, sometimes it looks really cute if it's small, sometimes it looks cuter if it's bigger than normal. Say for example, you can make it like a triangle shape. You start with a ball shape, and then you pinch down and make like a triangle shape, yeah, or you get the full piece and literally just make it oval, roll into a ball shape, and then turn it into an oval. Okay, and that's a bit smaller, that's a bit bigger. So we've got here 3 options, and we can try all of them. Okay, so we can put this, and again I'm going to use some Trex to secure. I've got a cotton bud, and I'm going to put some Trex and secure. Yeah, I think it looks cute, but I think it's a bit too big, so I can try the other one. And I think that's kind of the size I want, but I can also try the very small one and see if that's something which I think it works best. So just feel free to work with different sizes, proportions, and choose the one you like the most. Okay, then I've got the mustaches. Those again are very easy to make. I'm actually going to use this small piece of paste, so I will just start by rolling into a ball shape and then roll into very pointed elongated shape. Keep rolling with my fingers to get the length and the thickness I want. Okay, that can be left to dry and use as a mustache. This can be, for example, an eyebrow. Yeah, this can outline the eyes. I've done those already, so I don't need to kind of measure or anything. I will just show you how I've done them, and left them to dry into a curved shape so they can be attached straight onto the cake. Okay, so first of all I will start with the muzzle. So now I know that I'm going to use this one to on my bunny. I'm going to rub some glue and leave that to set for just few seconds, because it takes a little while for the sugar to start getting sticky. So I'm going to wipe off the tracks which I had put there, and then I would attach the muzzle and press a little, and then I will take this away. So I will wait till that gets a bit sticky, then I will lift up the eyes a little bit more. Okay, then take my I will take the eyebrows and the eyelashes. There are no eyelashes anyway, the stuff I've made to outline the eyes. So I'm going to attach those with glue. Just rub a bit of glue, place one in here. It's so much easier to make them in advance and leave them to dry, and then just pop them on your cake, instead of just getting stressed and pick a fresh piece of paste which doesn't really want to get onto your finger. So just need to move the eyes slightly below. Now if you are not too sure about how those are going to look like, you can attach with some tracks just to see how they look, and then if you are happy you can put them with glue, or you can just leave them as they are with tracks, as you're not going to travel with the cake. Or if you're going to travel at some point, then it does worth to put the glue. Okay, but at this point I think you will be fine without the glue. Now if you want that muzzle to be even more predominant, I would say, you can also add a piece of pink fondant, say for example, yeah, like this. You put this on and then you put the nozzle, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not going to do it, but I'm saying you can if you like. Okay, let's see. I think that's sticky enough. It can go in here. Okay, then I've got the moustaches to put on. I think we are going to slightly run over the time. I'm not going to stop, but if you want to just stop watching, then you can always rewatch this. I'm going to drill through the fondant and then get my moustaches and put them in here. Okay, in case they are a bit too thick or too large, I can always just trim. I think those are a bit too long. Okay, and you can also use a bit of glue to secure. Whenever you are 100% sure that they are in the right spot, you can just stick them with a touch of glue. And same in here. That was the one I've made just a minute ago, so it's still very soft. That's the one I've made in advance. And then I can also put another one. Oh no, I think 2 would be just fine. It doesn't need 3 moustaches, just 2 will be fine. Just setting the nose in the center. Then I need to pop the carrot. Now I did not leave enough room in here, but the carrot is got a weird shape, so that would be nice. So what I'm going to do here, oh, I forgot about the roses. So let's do quickly a rose before finishing the board. I've already rolled, let's see, where is it? I've already rolled some gum paste in red to make the bow. That can be rolled in advance and then placed in between 2 layers of plastic, just to make the little bow in here. So I've got this strip, Size is not really important. As you can see, the one which I've already made is slightly narrower than the one I've got here. And all you need to do is to trim the ends to make them nice and tidy, and then just fold this towards the center, yeah, and then start grabbing and then turn this to the front and get the strip which you've already cut, place that down, put some glue, flip the bow back, put some glue in here, and then just secure. Now, for example, if you make this bow in advance and it gets too dry, you can secure a cocktail stick or a toothpick and have that inserted straight onto the cake. But in my case, it's not super dry, as I've made it just like, I don't know, like 3 hours before, 2 hours before, and I can just stick it yeah, with some glue. Okay. Then with the roses, I already have got some roses in here, ribbon roses. Yeah, I will roll some pink fondant, and to roll I will use the board. I'm aiming for a strip, so just try and elongate this paste. Roll it as thin as possible, considering I'm working with Bybora fondant. This is quite stretchy and it works even if it's rolled super thin. And I'm going to flip this in half. Still keep a bit of air sealed in between the layers of fondant. Yeah. And then what I will do, I will start rolling and folding at the same time. Yeah. So roll and fold, roll and fold. And at this point I will stop, trim, and this is my little rose. And I've got another one made in red which I can stick. As you can see, I've got some roses in here. Then I said I don't need the soft paste, but I forgot about the tail. So I'm going to roll this into a ball shape. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's got some traces of orange from the carrot, because it will be covered with my coconut. Oh, so much mess in here. Okay, so I'm just going to spread some glue and then just pop this into my coconut and get it covered. Okay, so I've got the tail ready, I've got the flowers ready. I might need some leaves, like ribbon leaves. So let's quickly make a leaf, considering that you are not in a rush and you are still there. Thank you for joining. Oh, I don't know where I put, yeah. I will just do, it shouldn't take more than another probably 5 minutes, I would say, and we'll be done. Oh, no, 5 minutes, maybe about 10, as I've got the board to show you as well. So that's for making the leaf. So I'm going to cut this in half, and I will do something similar. I will fold this in half and then grab this in, and then the base. Then I'll pinch the top, and that's my little leaf. Okay, so just cut and do the same thing with the other one very quickly, and pinch. And that's going to be my floral arrangement, which I will stick on the body. I've also made here some quick roses, but I will show you how to make those roses in a different occasion, as we are kind of behind with stuff. Good. So covering the board and setting all the decorations. So let's try and clear up in here. It is a bit dirty, all this grease. Okay. Yeah, let's try and put this guy together. Not guy, this is a little girl. Good. So on that list where I said about what ingredients, materials you should use, I've also put things like icing sugar and egg white, just a little bit. And I will also need some green gel color. Okay, and I will just clean the palette knife, the spatula. You can also use candy melt if you've got, I do have candy melt, but I just thought I would just give you a different idea. That's quite quick because we all have sugar around us. It can be used, even made with caster sugar. So icing sugar, just a little bit of egg white. Oops, that was a bit too much. Far too much. I only need a little. Okay. Let's try and see if I can. So just about, say, 10 grams. Trying to make some royal icing by hand. Now, whenever I make royal icing, for example, I use about 160, 170, depends on the project, grams of egg white with 1 kilogram of icing sugar. So it should work. For 100 grams of icing sugar, I should need about 15 grams of egg white. So just a little bit more. I don't want to make it super runny. Okay, just yeah. So it's quite spreadable. Now, in case that you can get some fondant icing, that will also work. And I will need a toothpick just to get some green. Okay, I think I need a bit more, so I need to mess another toothpick. I wouldn't put the egg white inside of a color because it will contaminate, and then you will need to throw away the full pot of color, as you will have egg inside. So it's just better to use a fresh toothpick. I'm looking for my damp cloth because I've touched that pot of green and I probably ended up staining my gloves and I can't really see. So I think I'm going to remove the gloves after covering the board. So I've got some green royal icing which I'm going to use to spread on the board, quick and easy. Try not to stain the little bunny, just the board, and then I will also just create a bit of a grass texture. You can obviously beat some royal icing and then use a nozzle and start piping some grass. It will look really cool. And then you can also put some chocolate eggs on the board if you've got any. Oh, by the way, if you don't have any but you want to make some, I can probably run a demo on how to make some chocolate eggs. I think I'm going to do it. Shall we say maybe on Wednesday, Thursday? I will upload the date. In case that you want to join me, that would be great. And don't forget, if you want to get all the infos in regards with quantities, templates, do request to join the Academy of Cake Decorating group. In case you want to see everything in Romanian, join my Ribana Cristescu Romania group on Facebook, and I will be running exactly the same thing but in Romanian, so that you will be able to understand in case that you don't speak English. Okay, so just quickly Now ideally it would be to leave this to dry before attaching the rest of the bits, like the pose and everything, but I think because I'm in a rush I will just put everything on the board. As it's just sugar on sugar, it will stick and it will be absolutely fine. Okay, just covering everything and adding that texture of the grass. And that will give me the chance to secure the carrot as well. I can't see my damn cloth, I only have a tissue here. Now before setting the rest of the decorations, I just want to put a double-sided tape. That's how I normally finish the boards, by adding a double-sided tape. I used to buy this from a £1 shop. Now you might need to go online to buy it, but you might actually want to skip this and put no ribbon around. But in case you do, the double-sided tape is always good. Just going to use a spring themed ribbon, if I can open the... I've got it for a long time and never use it. Like a polka dot ribbon, but it's green, and I think it's going to look quite cute on this project. Good. I think it looks nice when you've got a piece of ribbon around the board. It just completes the overall look. Okay, now let's have another quick look in here and finish the details by adding the rest of the bits. I'm going to start with the carrot. Just putting the carrot this way, and then adding the pose, one on one side, one on the other, and then one on the back next to the other one. I will also need to secure the tail. Now to secure the tail, I can use the glue, or I can just put some Trex. I think I'm going to put some Trex, as it's not going to travel anywhere. And I can just press a little. And then also I'm going to secure the roses, maybe with some glue this time. So we'll start with the leaves, setting one leaf. Oh, this brush is full with orange. And then the other leaf, and then just put some more glue and set one of the large roses and then a small rose, and obviously the other ones can go next to them if needed. Oops, just trying not to drop. Trying not to drop, and I drop. Trying to stick them. Let's put some Trex. If I put Trex, they will run nowhere. Sometimes Trex does the job better than the glue. Okay, and also I can squeeze in those little leaves just for a bit more greenery. Great, cute. And I think I'm pretty much done. I will let you decide if I'm done or not, if I did a good job. I will appreciate if you will put any comments. I'm going to take some photos, a close-up photo, so that you can see the final project. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I did, even if I ran over the time. But I know you've got plenty of time now. And I do hope I've managed to kind of create a good atmosphere and then just keep you entertained for even for a short period of time. And I will be here tomorrow demonstrating other bits and pieces. Not too sure yet what I'm going to do. It's probably going to be a couple as those days, those elderly people are so struggling coping with the challenging times we are getting through. I think it would be nice to just create two little figures of a grandpa and a grandma, and just cheering them up. Okay, so again, thank you for watching, and see you tomorrow. Have a lovely evening. Bye bye.